All right, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on Muhsin. Today, we're super excited to have a very informative ABA workshop in partnership with Meem Behavior. Today, we have on Sister Salma Haji from the Texas area, is a board certified behavior analyst. She's worked in the field of ABA since 2011, and she's worked as a special education department chair for 5 years. She is currently the owner and director of Meem Behavior Institute. And today she's going to be talking to us all about differential reinforcement. And I'm really excited for her to explain more about it and for you all to learn more about it. So I hope people that are interested in ABA can benefit from our event tonight, as well as parents whose loved one may receive ABA get to learn more of the ins and outs and how to really practice things at home from an expert, Sister Salma. So I wanted to say, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments, and Sister Salma will be addressing them at the end. But for now, everybody sit back and enjoy, and I'm going to hand it over to Salma.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I'm really excited about doing this. I reached out to Muhsin and I told him that whenever I see free workshops hosted around, I get really jealous for my Muslim community. I really want things like that for us so that we can all benefit from knowledge that can make a difference in you and your child's life. So I'm really, really excited about this. I'm going to start by telling you a little bit about Meem Behavior Institute. Meem Behavior Institute is based off on in the location of DFW area, if you live around here. And let's see, slide 64. Okay, yeah, if you could go to 65. Thank you. So some of the services that we provide is comprehensive ABA therapy, and I'm a big believer of comprehensive ABA therapy. Basically, what that means is that it's not just behavior therapy that I provide, but I also take input and services through the occupational therapist and the speech therapist. So for example, if I want to teach your child how to speak, I will consult the speech therapist, and I will consult with her on testing your child to see what strengths they have and what sounds they make most. And I will build words off from that sound. And me and the speech therapist work closely together to develop goals that is best for your child. And so working with a team of experts has shown results that is exceeding just doing ABA therapy on its own. And then I also incorporate occupational therapy. So if your child has trouble zipping their backpack or tying their shoes, I take input from the occupational therapist, and I would ask them like, which movements does your child have strength in? So they do tests to see which fingers they have strength in, and we take all that into consideration before setting goals for your child. And it shows way more progress than just ABA therapy. I'm gonna go ahead and let you know that I'm pregnant, and so I kind of get out of breath whenever I speak. For those of you who have been pregnant, I'm guessing you hopefully did not experience it as bad as me, but I'm experiencing that, so I'm going to be out of breath a lot. But other than the service of comprehensive ABA therapy, another thing that we are heavily focused on at Meem Behavior Institute is parent training. And so with parent training, I actually, not to scare anyone away, I always tell people that come to Meem Behavior Institute that if you can't do parent therapy, I really can't work with you. If you can't, not parent therapy, I'm sorry, parent training, because you have to work closely with me and understand what I'm doing to get the best effect for your child. And I don't believe in wasting people's time or money. And so I always involve parents in training so that they can get the most out of the therapy. Another thing that I do at Meem Behavior Institute is that I try to give people resources. So let's say you are not you're too far away from my center, I will always try to find someone for you. The ABA community is very small. Everyone knows each other. Um, I'm guessing you understand if you have kids with special needs. You understand that the world does become small, and that everyone shares resources and everyone knows everyone. And so I hate to just leave parents without anything. So if you do come to me and I cannot provide you services, I always try to find someone who can for you. So I won't leave you hanging. With that being said, I don't want to take all the time of just telling you about Meem Behavior Institute. So if you need more information, please feel free to go to the website, which is www.meembehavior.com. So, and you could always reach out to me. I'm pretty sure my contact information could be shared with you. You could email me through that website. Reach out to me if you need anything. I always try to help parents as much as I can. So please feel free to reach out. Okay, now next slide. If I pass out after this, it'll be interesting. Okay, so I'm gonna take a moment to breathe and then I'll start. Okay, so I chose to present on differential reinforcement. Differential reinforcement is one of the basic things that you have to learn when you're trying to manage behavior. Reinforcement is really important. Yeah, so reinforcement is really important, and differential reinforcement is really important in order for you to have a good grasp of what differential reinforcement is. You have to understand reinforcement. So that's why I'm presenting on reinforcement first. Before I talk more about reinforcement, I'm going to tell you about what I'm using to teach you today. It's called Ruby Parent Training, and I absolutely love it. And I promise you, I'm not an advocate for it, and I'm not trying to sell it or anything. But when it comes to ABA, for those of you who have clients, and for those of you who have children or clients or siblings that are getting ABA services, you understand how expensive it can be. And so I really love Ruby Parent Training because it is really, really affordable. I think it's like $50. And it is a comprehensive training for parents, and it's really easy to use, and it's amazing. It covers every aspect of understanding how to manage behavior. I have it here somewhere. I'll grab it. Let me grab it real quick, okay? It's right here next to me. 1 second. Okay, so here it is. So it's called the Ruby Parent Training, and this is the book that it comes with. And there's two different kinds. There's the clinician manual, and then there's the parent handbook. And it's amazing. It comes with such amazing information that you could use. It comes with a resource center in which it has videos and worksheets and data sheets that are all free to you. And all you have to do is pay, like, I think it's $35 or $40 for it. And it's amazing. I absolutely love it. And so this is the training that I use for all my parents. And so I just took a segment from it to teach reinforcement and differential reinforcement. So I might skip some of the slides because it's a very extensive training for parents. So I might skip a few slides because this typically takes me, I would say it's like, for me to complete, it takes about 24 sessions of sitting with parents, with the time being from 30 minutes to an hour. So it is a very long training for parents, but I'm just doing one segment of it. Can you press next? Okay, thank you. Can you press next again? And next again. I thought I sent you the edited one, but I guess it didn't edit all of it. Can you press next again? Sorry. And next again. Okay, good. Okay, you can stop here. So the first thing that I'm going to discuss is positive reinforcement. A lot of people think that positive reinforcement means something good versus negative reinforcement meaning something bad. So like people think that negative reinforcement is like spanking your child, and then positive reinforcement is like giving your child like a candy or whatever. But when it comes to positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement, it's not talking about whether it's good or not. It's talking about the addition of reinforcement or the subtraction of reinforcement. So it's talking about whether you're giving your child something or taking something away from your child. So positive reinforcement is giving your child something. So if your child sits nicely and says hi nicely, then giving him a cookie would be positive reinforcement. If your child is screaming at the top of their lung and being or kicking you, and you remove his iPad, that's negative reinforcement. So it's just the addition or removal of something that your child likes. So it's not talking about whether it's good or bad. And so that's something that I always try to clarify. And we can use both in a positive way. You could use positive reinforcement and negative reinforcement in a positive way. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're bad if you use negative reinforcement, and negative reinforcement isn't a bad thing. Okay, you could go to the next slide. Okay, so before, the first thing that I really wanted you to understand is what positive and negative reinforcement is. Now, what I'm going to talk to you about is the different types of reinforcement that are there. Now, before I move on, I forgot one rule that I always follow. I try so hard not to use technical terms and use everyday words. So reinforcement is, just think of it as a reward, something good that you're doing for your child. So there's different types of rewards, right? So the first type of reward that we all have, not just your children, and I always tell people that this applies to all human beings, not just children with autism, not just children it applies to children with autism, children without autism, children with Down syndrome, children without Down syndrome. It applies to us. I actually use these methods to help myself with behavior. So if I want to pray on time, I use these methods. I manipulate my behavior. I give myself something rewarding after I pray on time. So that, and it works. It works on everyone. These methods are used to better train the army. These methods are used in SeaWorld. If you see dolphins doing backflips, they use these methods to teach them those backflips. These methods are also used in huge business offices so that they could get the most work out of workers. So this works for everyone. It doesn't just work for kids with autism or kids with developmental needs. So different types of rewards is what we're talking about. So the first one is called primary reinforcer. Primary rewards. Primary rewards are rewards that we don't have to be taught. An example would be food, water, shelter. When we're born, we don't have to be told to love food or water or shelter. It's something we already want. This is a reinforcer, a reward that I never ever manipulate. I never take food from a child. I never take shelter from a child. I never take comfort from a child. These are the child's rights. So I never manipulate primary reinforcers. I leave primary reinforcers. I'm in my bio, they mentioned that I work as a department chair for a district. And I know it sounds very common sense to not take food or to not take a jacket when a child is cold, to punish the child. It seems very, very common, right? It's not to a lot of people. I've been in many classrooms where people manipulate primary reinforcers, and this is illegal. You cannot do that. and it's not right. Like it doesn't have to be illegal for you to know not to do that to a child or to any human being. You shouldn't take away their natural reinforcers. You shouldn't take away their rights. You shouldn't take away their shelter. You shouldn't take away their food. These are things that I don't mess with. Now, the second thing is a social reinforcer. Social reinforcer is something that most people benefit from, if not all. And basically, what it is when someone says thank you to you, or when someone says good job, or when someone says I'm proud of you. These are social reinforcers. When someone claps for you, or like tells you, like gives you a big pat in the back and says, oh my goodness, you just made me so happy. These are social reinforcers. The third one is tangible reinforcers. Tangible reinforcers are reinforcers that you can actually touch. So, for example, iPad. Um, what else? A toy. Things that you can touch, manipulate. Things that toys. Things that you can have. Like these are tangible reinforcers. And then there's also activities and privileges. So taking you outside to play or taking you on a car ride. These are reinforcers as well. And then the last thing are tokens. Now, tokens are, I'll give you 2 stars, and 2 stars mean I'll give you a cookie. So those are tokens. And these are the five types of reinforcement that we're going to use so that we can use differential reinforcement. You can go to the next slide. Next one. Wait, go back. Okay. So now that you know what negative and positive reinforcement is, and you know about the 5 different types of reinforcement, now what I'm going to give you advice on is how to select a reinforcer, and so how to select a reinforcer before I teach you differential reinforcement. Now, the first thing that you have to understand is that everyone is different. For the parents that are here, I don't even have to teach you what this slide is. You could teach it better than me. I actually partner with the parents when it comes to selecting reinforcers. I always tell parents, what does your child absolutely love? I don't care if it's odd. I don't care if it's something you don't really care for. I don't care if it's something you don't want him to do, such as, like, let's say your child likes to rub his face over and over again. Whatever he loves, like if he's not hurting himself, and if it's socially appropriate, please tell me, what is it that your child absolutely loves? One thing that I always try to point out is that when it comes to behavior therapy, you have to be very humble. You have to be very, very humble, and you have to listen to the child. You can't be prideful and say, oh, you know what? Like, he likes to pop bubbles, and I don't want him to do that. And I don't want him to do this. And I don't want him to. You have to be child focused. So always choose what's best for your child and what your child absolutely loves. Anytime I do a behavior program and I take data and I see that the child is not improving, I always look at the reinforcer. The reinforcer is really, really important in finding out why. It's most of the time reinforcement is done wrong, to where the child doesn't care about what he gets. So why would he do what you want him to do? So always select something that works for your child and individualize it to your child. As a teacher, if there's any teachers present or anyone who works with kids, I always, like, I used to teach for a very long time in a public school setting. I always had many different types of reinforcers for every one of my kids. So I had puzzles, I had iPads, I had computers, I had toys, I had there's this one kid that absolutely loved popping bubbles from a bag. You know those bags that you package with? I used to collect it. I used to ask all my friends and family if they could save it for me, because I could then give it to that student and he could pop it all day. Yeah, it was annoying, but he loved it. And I actually potty trained him using that. So it's whatever your child likes, you do. The other thing is use use natural reinforcement to yourself, to your advantage, I mean. So like if the child loves food, use it to your advantage. If he loves goldfish, use it to your advantage. If he loves Oreos, whatever, use that to your advantage. If they love edibles, use that to your advantage. And then the other thing that I want to mention is that when it comes to reinforcement, you absolutely have to reinforce the child when the behavior that you want to see happens. So if you want the child to sit, all you have to do is give them the cookie when they sit. It always has to be happening right after the child behaves the way you want them to behave. While I was going to school, one of my professors told me, think of it as taking a picture of the child whenever they're doing what you want them to do. And you want to be proud of that picture. You don't want a picture of a child hitting. You don't want a picture of a child scratching or biting. You want a picture of a child doing what they're supposed to do or doing what you want them to do. So always give the reinforcer right after you see the behavior that you want. So think of that picture that picture that you want to see. That's whenever you give the reinforcer. And then, of course, this last point goes back to the first point of always paying close attention to what your child needs. A lot of times parents tell me, oh, when he was 1, he loved juice. He doesn't like juice anymore. Now he likes ice. So always follow what your child likes, and then and change with your child. If he changes what he likes, then change. If he's into Paw Patrol this week, then let it be Paw Patrol. If it's something else next week, then let it be something else. Okay, next slide. Next one. So sorry. Next one. Okay, good. So last thing, well, I mean, I don't think this is the last thing, but this is how you have to use reinforcement to change behavior. Now, the first thing I taught you is what is reinforcement: positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement. The second thing I taught you is the different types of reinforcement that you can use. There's social, there's tangible. And then the third thing I taught you is exactly how to select that reinforcer, right? So I taught you, you select it by knowing that your child ages and changes. I told you that you have to choose exactly what your child likes. And I told you that if your child is not behaving the way that they're supposed to, after you implement this procedure, then always look at reinforcement. That's the first thing you should ask. Is he happy with the reward I'm giving him? If he's not, then that's your problem. That's the problem that you're having. You have to give him what he wants so that he can change his behavior. Now I'm going to tell you the steps that you have to go through to implement the reinforcement procedure. I know that this presentation might be boring, but it's just a lot of information that I got to get to, and it's really important information, and I don't know how else to make it fun other than just telling you. Okay. So the way that you choose a reinforcement is you choose a behavior you want to change. I would choose 3, 5 behaviors you really, really want to see. If you want to, if you want to see your child sit at the table, at the dinner table without throwing their fork, without spilling water, then I would choose the target behavior of sitting nicely during dinner time. So choose a behavior that you really, really want to change. And then you also have to make it, this is a really, really important step. This is a step a lot of people skip. You have to keep it reasonable. So if your child cannot sit for 5 minutes straight, then I wouldn't expect them to sit for 5 minutes straight. If your child cannot sit if your child cannot draw, then I wouldn't expect them to draw. So always choose a behavior that your child can do. So if your child can sit for 10 seconds, then that's good. That's a really good start. This is a really, really important step. Um, always choose a behavior that your child can do very, very well. I typically start with my students at 3 seconds. I've had students that I told to sit just for 3 seconds. And then after a month, I worked them up to 5 minutes. So I always tell people, whenever you pick a target behavior, remember, it's not your home. It's just your start. And then we're building your home. So it's just your foundation, and we'll build from there, and you'll have your home soon. So don't think, oh, I want more than 5 seconds or I want more than 10 seconds. Just think you will get there. You will get to 5 minutes. But just right now, just choose a behavior that they can absolutely do. Now, the second part, the third step that you have to do is you have to figure out how often you're going to reinforce. I always reinforce very, very frequently when the behavior is new that I'm teaching. So I do it really, really frequently. So you sit 10 seconds, you get something that you really like. And so always reinforce very, very frequently whenever you first start the behavior. The third thing you have to do is you have to give them the reinforcer right after. So don't give it to them after a minute or 2 minutes. Give it to them like after 2 seconds or after 1 second or after 3 seconds. You got to give it to them right after whatever behavior you want to see, you give it to them right after. And then this part is really, really important. You have to use it contingently. So what this means is, let's say Sami Sami sat down for 3 seconds and you got really excited. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to go get the M&M. And you grab the M&M and you come back. And then he had already thrown his fork down the floor, and he's already screaming. You don't give it to him then. You just hold the M&M and you wait till he sits again, and then give it to him after he sits. So always do it whenever you see the behavior you like. Remember, think of that picture. Whatever picture you take, anytime you give the reinforcer, that's the picture you're taking. So always take a picture that you want to see. And then also, this one is a really important step. They're all important. If I could choose one, I wouldn't be able to. These are all really important steps. So the other thing is you have to you maintain the reinforcer value. This is something that will come up over and over and over and over again. If you don't care about the reward, you're not really going to change your behavior. You have to absolutely love the reward. So your child has to love that M&M. He has to love that cookie. He has to love you saying good job or singing to him. He can't just reinforce based on what you think they like. So always make sure that is very valuable to them. Now, another thing is that you also have to maintain the value. So let's say your child sat for 5 whole minutes. A cookie will not work, or a goldfish will not work. You got to give them something bigger than that. You got to give them maybe a cookie with the iPad, because that is worth the work, right? So think about your job salaries and how motivating it is if it's a good salary, right? If it's not a good salary, you don't really care about the job as much. So you have to give them a really good value reward for them to do the behavior you want them to do. If it's multiple behaviors, then give them a 5-minute break of their favorite show with their favorite cookie, with their favorite juice, whatever makes them happy. Maintain the value of the reward. That's very, very important. Step number 7 is my go-to, because we're all moms. Not all of us, but we're busy, and we have a lot going on. And so so let's say your child sat finally for 30 seconds and you're really happy. Instead of looking for that for that M&M or cookie or juice, what you could do is you could say, "Good job for sitting. I'm so proud of you. I'm going to go get the M&M," and then you bring the M&M. And then while you're giving it to them, you say, "Good job for sitting." Another thing this does is a lot of times we just say "good job" and the child has no idea what they're doing that's good. So it's really important for you to mention what they're doing before you give them what you want them to have. So before you give them the reward, always mention what you're giving them the reward for. So always say, "Good job for sitting. Here's an M&M. Good job for talking nicely to me. Here's your iPad for 30 seconds or a minute or whatever." And so pairing social to activity or material reinforcement gives you that time that you need. It gives you step number 4, which is you have to give it as fast as possible. And I'm saying this is a go-to for everyone that's busy, because sometimes simply saying "good job" works for them. Just telling them "good job" and not giving them anything sometimes works for them if you can't get to that something. And so the last step is for kids that are younger and have no functional communication, then consider using a timer or a visual or um, or a visual reminder of the behavior, especially if the behavior is really difficult for them to complete. So like reminding them, "Good job, you're about to get a cookie. Good job, you're about to get in like in 2 seconds I'm about to look at your timer. In 2 seconds you're about to get your cookie. Thanks for sitting." So using that constant reminder of what they're getting is a really good key to use. Can you go to the next slide? Okay, next slide. Okay. So when I was working in the clinical setting, I used to work at Cook's Children, and I worked in their behavior department, and I always got confused between bribery and reinforcement. Now, the main difference between bribery and reinforcement is that reinforcement happens after the student behaves well, and bribery happens while the student is acting out. So an example would be, Johnny is kicking me, and then I say, "Oh, if you stop kicking me, I'll give you a cookie." Then Johnny will think, "Oh, every time I kick, I get a cookie." So that's bribery, and you should not do that. Reinforcement, on the other hand, is you see Johnny sitting nicely and you say, "Johnny, I love that you're sitting nicely. I'm going to give you a cookie." So you see the difference? One happens right after they're behaving the way they're supposed to, and another one happens right after they're behaving the way they're not supposed to. So please stay away from bribery, and remember that picture, taking that picture. So whenever you give what a reward, that's the picture you're taking. Look at the behavior that you're giving a reward to, because that's the behavior you are increasing. Next, sorry. Okay, next. I apologize. I thought I sent, okay, good, right here. Okay, so this is a very common very common procedure that I want you to use. We're finally at the part where I'm teaching your differential reinforcement. This is very, very common. So for example, this is talking about two sisters that always fight. So Jeannie's constantly fighting with her sister, right? And then her mother always says, "Can you stop fighting?" Every time she's cooking in the kitchen, Jeannie and her sister are fighting. And so the mom says, "Can you please stop fighting?" But then sometimes Jeannie is not fighting her sister, and she's sitting very nicely and she's watching TV and she's not bothering anyone. And mom doesn't say anything about that. Now, that's what differential reinforcement is. Differential reinforcement is whenever you actually go to Jeannie while she's watching TV and you say, "Good job." And whenever she is fighting her sister, you just ignore it. And this is a very important thing that we always forget to do. We forget to tell the child that they are being good whenever they're being good, but we are the first to tell them that they're not doing good when they're doing bad. So always try to catch your child while they're being good so that you can reward them while they're being good. And then try to ignore, especially if the behavior is not dangerous to the child, then ignore it. Ignore it while they're misbehaving. But while they're behaving the way they're supposed to, then then go ahead and give them a reward. Think of that picture. You want to take those pictures of the child being good, not those pictures of the child being bad. So this is a very common scenario that happens all across everywhere. I used to teach a classroom of students. I taught sixth, seventh, and eighth grade. And I taught at a Title I school, and my students were all either in diapers at the age of 13. They all were using 2 to 3 words. They were they didn't have they were nonverbal. They didn't have much verbiage or functional communication skills. They had a lot of behaviors, and it was really scary because imagine a 13-year-old and what they do when they act out. So my students would throw chairs, and they would be very aggressive and physical with me and the staff. And my go-to was always I would have a bag of M&Ms or a bag of goldfish, and I would just walk around and find the students that are sitting and say, oh, good job, you're sitting. You're making me so happy. Thank you for sitting. And then I would give it to them. And then I would go to the next student that is not screaming, and I would say, oh, I love your voice. You are using such wonderful voice. It makes me so happy. And I would just walk around taking those pictures with my goldfish, taking those pictures. And guess what happens after a week of doing that? As soon as I grab a bag of goldfish, all my students do exactly what I want them to do, because they know that that's the only way that they're going to get the goldfish in my hands is if they do the behavior that I'm trying to take a picture of. Now, I can get more and more and more into differential reinforcement, but basically what differential reinforcement is that you're ignoring behavior that you don't want to see, and you are taking pictures of behaviors you do want to see. I would like to add, before I take questions, I would like to add that you do not do this for behaviors that are dangerous. So if you have a child that runs outside across the street, I wouldn't ignore it. If you have a child that bangs their head on the wall to the point where they're bleeding or hurting their heads, I would not do this. There's a different method that you could use that's safer than differential reinforcement. These are for behaviors such as a child screaming or kicking or, just acting out that is not dangerous to themselves. So these are not behaviors that are self-injurious. If the child is biting themselves, if the child is pinching themselves, these are not behaviors that I ignore. I use this for behaviors that are safe to ignore. I plan on continuing this partnership with Muhsin. So for behaviors that are very, very dangerous, there's different methods that you could use, and I'm more than happy to present on those behaviors and what you can do with those behaviors. But right now, I hope I usually love interaction and questions and everything. So I don't know if I'm talking to myself or like I don't know what's going on the other side. So I'm gonna end it here and take questions so that I can get interaction.
Right. Thank you so much, Sister Selma. I really enjoyed how you broke down the steps. I think that was very helpful and very informative. We do have some questions that have come in, so we're going to start taking those and some comments. I'm going to start posting them on the screen. First, just going to start with a few of the compliments you received. Somebody said, absolutely understanding why the behavior happens is the foundation for changing the behavior while still getting needs met. And by the way, if you still have a question, feel free to type it in and we'll be sure to address it. Someone said, very good presentation. You made it all the way through. Yay, mashallah. Someone said, thanks a lot. This session was really helpful. Somebody has a question. What does ABA cover that's not covered by public school IEPs? So I think this is just more of a general question about ABA.
I absolutely love this question because I came from a public school, and I also I came from a private clinic, and I also have been in a public school. So public school can never. Well, okay. So I was actually the BCBA for a district, and yeah, so I was the board certified behavior analyst for a district, and I oversaw the whole district's plan on how to implement ABA into the classrooms. And the really sad thing about it is that anytime I went into a classroom, what I wanted to do, I could not do because they don't have the resources or personnel to do it. And so public schools can always try to fund, they can always offer you ABA, but it will never, ever be at the same level as a clinical setting. Because in a clinical setting, you're getting your child with one therapist all day long. And public school can never do that. They can get your child with a paraprofessional all day long, but that paraprofessional often does not understand ABA methods. Sometimes you could get really lucky with a paraprofessional or a teacher aide that understands ABA methods, but anytime I went into the classroom to implement ABA therapy, it was really, really difficult. I'm not saying we weren't able to. I always still tried my best to give the best to every student. However, I always would say, okay, can you, like, let's say I want to teach the child to be toilet trained. I would ask the data would show. So I always take data first. So the data would show that this child needs to go to the potty or go to the toilet every 30 minutes. So then I would ask the teacher, can you do every 30 minutes? And then they would say, well, there's lunch, and then everyone goes to a lunch break, and then there's my conference time, and then there's this. And then I would say, okay, we can't do 30 minutes because it's not possible. Let's go ahead and do every hour at least. Like, let's at least do that. But that's not going to be helpful because the data shows that the child can only hold their urine in for 30 minutes. And so I always had to compromise when it came to public school versus behavior clinic. So behavior clinics have that one-on-one therapy, and they have that data-driven focus for your child, and public school doesn't, unfortunately. And most public schools don't have ABA therapy. I could, like, if Fawad, you could email me. A lot of times I want to add this because I like to give a complete answer. So a lot of times I always look at the child individually. If your child is close to being a general ed student, I would recommend public school. But if your child needs a lot of help functioning, then I would recommend ABA therapy. So I always look at it by case to see what's best for the child. But I always stand by public school never being able to cover what a clinic does.
Thank you for that answer. A couple other comments. Someone said, thank you. This was very informational. Someone said they got a deeper understanding of when to and how to use a reinforcer. This brother also asked another question about positive and negative reinforcement. Would it be better for long term to figure out what is actually triggering or causing this behavior so that it doesn't occur?
Yes. So yes, I always start with taking data. So one of the things that I do when I get a child is I follow them. I like literally stalk them all day long, and I take data and find out exactly what their trigger is, what the behavior is, and Another class that I give is called Fundamental of Behaviors and Principle of Behaviors. And so that class is dedicated to understanding what the function of behavior is, because everything we do for a reason. And so always find out the reason before you just implement a procedure or find out whether you're going to negatively behave or positively behave. None of this is done until you find out, why are you acting this way? What is going on? Why are you banging your head? Are you doing it because your head hurts? Are you doing it because you want a cookie? What's going on? Understanding the behavior is very, very important. It's the first step before you go to anything else. So yes, do understand the cause of the behavior, the trigger of the behavior, before you do anything about the behavior.
Great. Somebody's asking if they can do both, have their child in public school and do ABA on the side as well.
Yes. So if your child is really young, like there isn't, okay, so there isn't a right answer for everyone, right? So like there's not the right answer. There's not one answer for everyone. So I would have to look at that child. I would have to understand what's going on with that child. Shabina, please feel free to reach out to me, and I can have a 20-minute conversation with you over the phone to see what's best for your child. Sometimes I recommend public school all the way, fully, because there are certain things that you get from public school that you won't get from a private clinic. For example, I recommend, like, there's public school teaches your child more independence. They are able to go from the classroom to the cafeteria to the public bathrooms, and it helps them navigate the world better, and where they don't have as much assistance. And also it helps them interact with populations that you wouldn't interact with in a private setting or in a clinical setting. So I've been both in a clinical setting and a public school setting, and I will never recommend something just because I'm in it. Right now, I'm obviously on the clinical side. I would recommend it based on what your child needs. So please feel free to reach out to me, and I can tell you what your child will most benefit from. And a combination sometimes is what's recommended. Sometimes a full-time in one setting versus another is recommended, all depending on where your child is at.
All right, awesome. We have a couple more really good questions coming in if you have time, Salma.
Yeah, I do.
Okay, and but before I get to them, I just wanted to throw up your email address so that if anybody would like to contact her to get more information about their specific product, or if their specific case, or if they're in the Dallas area, they can also maybe benefit from your services. So those of you that are watching, take Selma's email. It's info@meembehavior.com. I'm gonna throw up a couple more questions, maybe like 2 more questions. This one, I'm not sure if you can answer this. It's not really about ABA, but maybe just in general, do you have any tips of how somebody would be able to go about screening their child for a disability?
Yes. So if you're in the DFW area, please shoot me an email, because what I did is, I get this question a lot, and this is a really, really good question. What I always tell people, wait, okay, well, yeah. So this is a really good question. So I kind of lost my train of thought. This is a really good question, because sometimes you can take your child to a place that does diagnosis, and especially if you're dealing with insurances, they won't cover it. They're going to say, we don't accept this diagnosis. You got to go to this specific thing. And so if you're in the DFW area, what I have done is I went ahead and got all the neurologists and psychiatrists and the pediatrics that do diagnosis and screenings for kids that is accepted by major insurances. So please reach out to me, and I'll send you that list if you live in the DFW area. Now, you have to be careful of how you screen your child. Currently in Texas, for sure, they will not accept school screening. They will not accept it. You could come with the school screening to any clinic in Texas, and they're going to say, no, we can't pay for it and we cannot accept it. Your insurance will reject it. So you have to get your diagnosis from a neurologist, a psychiatrist, or a medical personnel, such as a someone that has like pediatrics, yeah, someone that works specifically with children and understands the developmental of children to a depth level. And so I wouldn't be able to do that because I'm on the service side. So I'm on the side where I take the screening, and then I would be able to tell to help you based on that screening. And so yeah, I'm not on the label side, I'm on the service side. But I would recommend that you get that started right away. For anyone who's listening that has not done it yet and you're thinking about doing it, please do it ASAP. I know there's I'm currently working with a parent right now who's been on the wait list for 3 months. So the wait list could be as long as years. So please get in as soon as possible to get your child diagnosed, because there's not many people that can do it. So if you want that list, please email me and I will send you that list.
Thank you. Next question we have. There's actually kind of a lot. I'm gonna pick a. Okay. Someone said, "Does ABA also work on individuals' vocationals or job skills, depending on the individual needs? Until what age group do you recommend doing ABA?"
Okay, so I currently have clients that are 22, 25, 17, 19. So I'm currently working with clients that are a lot older. Um, I I I love working with all ages, and there's not many people that work with older ages because there's things that come up in older ages that no one wants to deal with. But to answer your question, ABA can work throughout your whole lifetime. ABA is happening every day. Every behavior that you have happened because of you got either punished for it or rewarded for it. So yeah, it could work for all ages. However, research shows that it works best when the child is 2 to 10. That's when it works best. However, I've worked in middle school and high school for a very long time, and I have toilet trained a 13-year-old. I have I have taught a child, and excuse me for this, but this is a reality in which could happen if your child has special needs and they hit puberty. But I have taught a child not to masturbate in public. So you could always treat behavior. I'm a very hopeful person, very dedicated person. I don't give up on people just because of their age. So I typically work with all ages, and you can work with all ages. Your disability doesn't just disappear, and you'll need treatment for the rest of your life, unfortunately, especially if it's a cognitive disability that is such as autism. Autism is a life term of lifelong disability, and so you'll always need it. But it does work on individuals with vocational skills and job skills. And it's very ironic that you asked that, because currently I'm partnered with the Texas workforce, and I teach adults who want to enter the workforce that have autism. So I'm currently teaching a client of mine how to complete tasks. So he's completing tasks such as cleaning his bedroom, and cleaning his the kitchen, washing dishes, making himself a meal, and all these things. And so then we can, and then also, like, I'm working really hard for him to follow a schedule and read a written instruction and complete it so that he can get ready to get a job and maintain a job. So yes, you can work with vocational skills, job skills, and you can work with any group and any age. So yeah, definitely you could work with all those for sure.
All right, thank you. I think that's the last question we're gonna take for tonight. Thank you so much, Salma, for answering all of those. And I'm so happy people asked all of their questions. I'm just going to throw up your email address one more time so that if anybody needs to reach Salma for more details or for more specific questions about their specific case, go ahead and shoot her an email at info@meembehavior.com. But with that, Jazakallah khair, Salma. This was great, really informative. It seems like the caregivers really enjoyed it as well. And we do hope to continue our partnership with you in the future for other things. And thank you so, so much for your time tonight.
No problem. Thank you guys for tuning in and thanks for all the good questions. And I honestly mean it. Please reach out to me. I do have a very busy schedule, but I always get to your questions. So I will be able to get to your questions. Please reach out.
Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Bye, everyone.